Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for your service. I'll start with Mr. Mudd, if you could. Would you be able to rate the current administration regarding homegrown terrorism, radicalization here at home, and the things that we've done to combat it or to deal with it in the macro and the micro sense? And assuming that you might have a divergent opinion, can you contrast what would you do differently from what is currently being done, if you can, from a macro sense anyhow?
Let me give you a few thoughts. And I did serve on loan from the CIA to the FBI for about 4.5 years, so I watched this from the inside. Operationally, I think we do pretty well. If you look at what we anticipated 14 years ago, we got a lot less than we anticipated. When you're at the threat table in 01, 02, 03, and somebody tells you we will not suffer a catastrophic event in this country, you would have said, no way. We did not understand the adversary. And in terms of, we could talk about operationally, but I think the Bureau uses a lot of resources. I don't think it's particularly efficient. That's not a criticism. It's just because they're charged by people like you to make sure nothing happens in this country. So we chased everybody we could find with the resources we had when I was in the Bureau. Ideologically, in terms of this fight on the Internet, et cetera, I don't think, this is not a comment on this White House or the other. I'm a practitioner and a servant. I'm not a politician. I don't think we do very well in this sphere because we want to own it within government. I mentioned earlier when I started speaking, I think there's an opportunity to talk to the people who do own it. For example, I don't want to get into specific companies, but I've talked to some of the companies in this space, that is the social media space. They don't really understand what the adversary looks like, therefore they can't offer, in my judgment, good guidance about how to chase the adversary. I think they see the U.S. government as telling them what to do when we want their data, as opposed to saying, here's what the target looks like, California, Silicon Valley, can you tell us how you want us to change laws so you can give us data to hunt these folks? I don't think we enable them to get out there and message. So I don't think the U.S. government generally and the American system is very good at being agile in influencing the way people think about Islamist ideology. I don't think we should be that good. I think there are other people who would be better, and I would suggest that we give them what we're facing. I don't think you have to go into a secret environment to do that. I could brief them today, and we tell them, if this is what we're facing in the digital world, Facebook, Yahoo, PayPal, all these guys, what would you suggest we do? And let's talk about ideas before you get into legislative changes.
All right, thank you. Mr. Speaker, you know, I've been a combatant commander, and I guarantee you that my troops knew what the mission was and knew who the enemy was. And your testimony particularly centered around the inability, the unwillingness to identify the enemy. And it doesn't just stay at the top, it cascades down through the disparate organizations. And with your, and I'm assuming you mean DHS as well, so with your experience in government and the whole of government, what do you think that this committee can do to motivate, so to speak, DHS to identify the enemy? I mean, we can't force them to do it, but and then craft a policy regarding the identification and the defeat of the enemy within the country, if you would. What can this committee do?
Well, first of all, the Congress actually could force a great deal. Now, whether or not you get it signed into law in the short run. But if you go back, the last time we were faced the kind of penetration we have now was the 1930s and 40s with the Soviets. And the Congress was very active in beginning to figure out what was going on, and it was very tumultuous. And people didn't like it. And you've got to confront the fact that what you now have is a willful denial of objective reality. Well, the Congress does have an ability to pass laws, to make regulations, and to hold the kind of hearings and investigations that get this stuff out in the open. So I would start there. I would also say, since you've been a combatant commander, one of the things that came up earlier, it bothers me that we've had almost no serious review of what hasn't worked. I mean, we've been at this now with thousands of dead, tens of thousands of wounded. We have tried to train armies which have collapsed. We clearly don't have the correct doctrine for what we're doing, and yet you're not going to go out and find very many people who want to peel back the cloth and figure out what we're doing. Finally, in terms of winning the ideological war, at its peak under Reagan, The U.S. Information Agency was separate from the State Department and 35% the size of the state. It was an enormous project, consciously sending out messages that broke the morale of the Soviet Empire. Now, we have nothing comparable to that today. So there are a number of steps you could take, but I think if you simply started by saying you'd like to have hearings on, and you'd like to have your staff investigating, what are new trainees told at DHS? What do the documents look like? What kind of people are brought in to do the briefings? How are they vetted? I mean, I think you'll be stunned how methodically and systematically we have become blind over the last 10 or 12 years, and how cultural jihad is more dangerous than physical jihad. And until we confront that, and you can confront it in this committee by holding hearings about that agency, how it operates, what it tells itself, how it communicates, and you'll begin to find out that a great deal of what we currently do is nonsense.
Chair recognizes Mr. Keating.